name is Annie. I live with my husband, Jay, and a black cat as a pet Pepper. I have known Pepper since I brought her home when I was single, so we have been together for about 5 years now. There was nothing wrong with my marriage, but the relationship between Jay and his parents was bothering me. He was raised by his father very strictly. No video games, no TV. He was not even allowed to hang out with his friends. Because of this lifestyle, he never made any friends. Until he met me, he had a very dark personality. It was 2 years after Jay and I got married that my father-in-law, who was such a strict man, passed away. He collapsed suddenly when he was eating breakfast, and he's gone then. It's not that my mother-in-law served him something for breakfast. My father-in-law used to take the medicine for hypertension. The doctor said he had myocardial infarction caused by his hypertension. When my father-in-law passed away, I asked Jay if he was doing okay. For some reason, he had a smile on his face. No one can stand in my way anymore. It's the face of Jay, and the way he muttered while looking at the portrait of his father. It was quite creepy. No matter how bad a parent he was, don't you think it's normal to show at least a hint of grief? To be honest, from that moment on, I became afraid of Jay. It was as if he had become a different person, like he was possessed by the devil, that kind of fear. Then, a week later, after the funeral of Jay's father and finishing various other formalities, Jay changed drastically. Jay had gambled away all the money we had set aside for our home. When I tried to warn him, he yelled at me, and I was so horrified by his change that I couldn't stop him. Sure enough, all the money we had for our home was wiped out. I was shocked, but decided to hope that this would wake Jay up. But reality was not so sweet. Buddy, apparently, Jay could not forget the pleasure of gambling. He even started to spend our living expenses. He was completely addicted to gambling. He would only bet on the biggest jackpot, saying that the crazier the better. He never hit the jackpot. And even if he gambles on the high probability one, sometimes he never won. Jay didn't have the slightest talent for gambling. By the way, don't tell him that the number I predicted was the winning number. Jay is a salesman for a big company. I work from home and live in my in-laws' house since my father-in-law passed away. After setting aside some savings for the future and for living expenses, the rest of our salary was free for each of us to spend as we please. But ever since he put the money saved for our new home into gambling, he started putting his hands in all kinds of money. My wallet too, of course. Gambling addiction will improve if people around control it thoroughly. That's what the book said, so I tried everything that seemed to work for Jay. But when I told him I will manage the household finances, since we would suffer if he took our living expenses, he yelled at me and refused, saying, "You're going to steal my money, you thief." When I explained to him about his gambling addiction, he was furious and threw the remote controller at me, saying, "I'm not insane. I'm normal." When he threw the remote controller at me, it almost hit Pepper, so I evacuated Pepper to my room. Then he started yelling, "So your cat is more important than me?" And no matter what I said to him, he wouldn't understand about gambling addiction. And moreover, he threw things at me again and again, and I realized there was nothing I could do. Gambling is more important to me than you. If he says something like that, you would think so too. It had been 6 months since my father-in-law passed away, and my mother-in-law was completely unaware of Jay's situation. It seemed that Jay was lying to my mother-in-law, that he only gambles with his allowance. He was trying very hard not to show his bad side, especially to his mother. To Jay, his mother was the only person who'd spoil him and heal him. She was the complete opposite of his father. If my father-in-law was the devil, my mother-in-law was the angel. I think he wanted to avoid being hated from her, but I didn't want him to use me to avoid being hated from her. Actually, my mother-in-law said to me today, "Annie, Jay told me, but you shouldn't complain about every single thing your husband does."
A wife should obey her husband without complaining.
Jay is always saying terrible things to me.
I'm his mother, so I understand everything about Jay. He's a sensitive boy. He'd never say terrible things, but because of you, he had no choice but to say them. My mother-in-law was so sarcastic.
When I was about to say, "But it's necessary for his gambling rehabilitation."
Well, I think you're overreacting. You should allow him to gamble a little. You don't know anything because you just stay at home, but men have a social life. Jay used to gamble once a month to relieve stress. You should stop meddling. And you should level up your housekeeping skills instead. I check your room from time to time. It's so dusty. No one could live in a place like that. But you're a lazy wife.
Did you go into my room without telling me? Is that why my work tools are missing?
How can those things be work tools? You don't even have a job to begin with. My son said you're a stay-at-home parasite.
I explained to Jay that I work from home. I have even taken him to meet the people I work with. He even talked to them and greeted them. And he calls me a parasite. Does gambling addiction even make a person lose his memory?
Besides, everything in this house is mine. I'm free to throw it away or sell it. If you don't want to be evicted, don't disobey me.
Before I could say anything back, my mother-in-law left with a big smile on her face. When my father-in-law died, she changed. She became more devilish, mean, and bullying. It's when I complained to Jay about it. He said, "You call my mother a thief? Are you going to use that story as an excuse to beg me for things? Well, you're a wicked bitch." He won't believe me. He just yelled at me. Why did I marry such a man? Why did I put up with him and not abandon him? This thought was growing stronger every day. And when I finally discovered that Jay had even gotten his hands on my savings, something snapped inside me. I'm getting a divorce. It was the only way. If I continued to live like this, I would be doomed to hell. But I didn't think they would let go of me so easily, of someone who they could just treat like a nice housekeeper. I couldn't imagine that they would simply nod their heads when I asked them for a divorce. Just when I was hesitating, someone unexpectedly came to my rescue,
Hey, Annie, I have a favor to ask you.
said my mother-in-law in a coquettish voice. To say the least, I was sickened.
We had worse, Jay. Of course you're a parasite with no money. How about $100,000 as alimony?
Divorce with alimony? I thought I was dreaming, so I scratched my arm with Pepper's fingernail. It hurt. It wasn't a dream.
I can understand why you don't want to leave Jay. He's the husband you love. But you know what? I've never forgiven you. You were always trying to get Jay's attention by making me the bad one. But you're not good enough for Jay. Jay is tired of you too. He says that you spent the money he saved together for the house, but you spent it all on your own.
I definitely, I couldn't say anything. He blamed me for spending the money.
But Jay said he'll forgive you since he has a big heart. But I can't forgive you. So I'd like you to accept the $100,000 on the condition that you stay out of our lives.
I almost screamed that he was lying about the whole thing, but I didn't think my mother-in-law would listen to me. I was wrecking my brains, thinking if I could just let it all go away like this. I had an idea. Maybe I could get a divorce with alimony and just give these two a hard time. Besides, if it's my mother-in-law's opinion, Jay wouldn't deny the divorce, for what the angels say is absolute. I understand, and I will gladly accept your offer. I can't thank you enough for also considering my future. I forced a smile on my face and bowed to her. Then, under the leadership of my mother-in-law, the divorce proceedings so smoothly completed. All of my savings were used, but thanks to the unbelievable alimony, I got my money back. I got a note from my mother-in-law about the alimony, just in case, but I'm relieved to know what the money was transferred to my account right away. The source of this $100,000 was probably my father-in-law's inheritance, but it didn't matter to me anymore. I rented a room near my office and started living with my cat, Temper. It has a walk-in closet and a loft, which I had always dreamed of. I even added a catwalk to the wall, and Pepper and I are overjoyed. The power of money is incredible. Now that I've taken the plunge and rented a nice room, I can now spend my days in peace. My ex-husband and my mother-in-law are gradually fading from my memory. I wish I could just forget about them, but I know that won't happen. 4 months later, I got a call from my mother-in-law.
Annie, why didn't you tell me? Please help me.
I was shocked to hear my mother-in-law's voice, which was weaker than I had imagined.
I regret kicking you out. Please help me.
My mother-in-law began to explain the situation. The reason my mother-in-law wanted the divorce in the first place was because my ex-husband told her, "I'd rather live with you than with a wife like that. I'll take care of you for the rest of my life." My mother-in-law, who loves her son more than anything, immediately agreed and prepared a large sum of money so they could get divorced as soon as possible. After the divorce, they immediately started living together. She didn't know that Jay was a gambling addict. And from now on, I can take care of the family finances. He asked her to put all the family assets under his name. I am so blessed that I have a good son to take care of me. Besides, this house was going to be inherited by him anyways. There would be no problem if I changed the name Nail. My mother-in-law nodded as if to say, no problem. She didn't know that was the worst possible choice. My ex-husband started to show his true colors as soon as the name was put in his name. For starters, he took out a real estate mortgage using his parents' house as collateral. He used the money to gamble again. It was only yesterday that my mother-in-law found out about it. She received a foreclosure notice from the lender and found out about it.
What the hell is this?
She asked Jay about it. Oh, that. I used it to gamble. You got a problem with that? He replied, just like that. She then asked Jay a lot of questions. Apparently, he had mortgaged his parents' house to pay off his gambling debts. Gambling debts, but he used the money to gamble again. Jay said, if I won all at once, since I'd be a millionaire.
The horse is undefeated so far. There's no way he could lose, so he put all the money in.
And then, at the last minute, the horse fell down and the most unlikely horse won the race. This horse had never won a race before. It is said to be the biggest miracle of the century. Jay was a natural-born loser gambler. Too stupid. He repeatedly defaulted on his payments, and it had been more than 6 months since his last payment. My mother-in-law was horrified to find out that he had spent every penny of her husband's inheritance, savings, and salary. In addition, Jay said, "It's okay, Mom. Just next time. I'll earn money from bicycle racing instead of horse racing. So give me the rest of Dad's inheritance." When my mother-in-law replied that the money was almost gone due to my alimony, she was furious.
Why did you pay your alimony without telling me? Like $100,000. If I had that much money, I could have doubled it by gambling.
He was very rude to her. My mother-in-law contacted me and asked me to return the $100,000. I can't do that. I have a note. Can you do something about it? We were family. Please, please. My mother-in-law cried and pleaded with me, but her tears weren't worth a penny. I'd even filed a claim for mental anguish instead. I don't care what you say. Please work hard and pay back. I tried to hang up the phone, but my mother-in-law's attitude changed drastically. You can't talk to me like that when your family is desperately asking you for a favor. You cold-blooded person, you should feel sorry for us and at least think about it a little. I sighed deeply. You know what? I have pointed out his gambling habit to you many times. You were the one who ignored what I said and made fun of me. This wouldn't have happened if you had believed even a little bit of what I said. Look, this is all your own fault, you know. That's because I didn't know. I didn't know that gambling addiction was that serious. And I would have at least listened to you if you would have insisted.
Yes, it's all your fault. Take responsibility.
That's the kind of mommy she is. That's why he grew up like that. These people really are lying, you know? You can't even tell when your son is lying. You're a joke. Why a joke? And it's your son who gambled away your savings. Brew. And did I use it? It was all your son's fault. He deserved it. It's to you. We're strangers, not so you have to take responsibility for your family.
My mother-in-law, perhaps intimidated by my attitude, became silent, but she still hadn't given up.
All right, $50,000. All I have to do is pretend that you stole it from me. Then we can sue you and get back the $100,000.
You know, this call's recorded just in case. I knew you were going to say something like that. Top they say. Anika. Despite these first instance absurdity. I have a note.
Wait a minute. You're going to sue me to get back the $100,000.
Won't you give it a try? Maybe you can win. You don't do my too. I should have lent it to you.
Okay. Oh, you've become a monkey? Then I guess I can't talk to you anymore. Goodbye.
After that, my mother-in-law went to a lawyer's office for advice, but I heard she was turned away at the door. Reconsult with us for free. You can pay the cost for suing. That's what she was trying to tell him. Of course she would be turned away. A few days after the phone call, Jay asked me to get back together with him. He no longer had anything to put up as collateral, and he was completely behind in his payments. I heard that some men in black suits were visiting his house every day now. The house had been sold, and they had to move out in a few days. Jay, who has no money, has nowhere to go. Even if he escaped, he would be caught by the men in black suits. So I want you to hide me. He also wants me to pay his debts. I told him he could ask his coworkers for help. The men in black suits started visiting him at work. The company found out that he was in debt. Jay, who still can't stop gambling, was fired for disturbing the public morals of the company. He had a small severance pay, but he used it in gambling again. He's really a hopeless person. Hey, let me leave with you. I apologize for everything. Don't mock me. I know what you're up to. You just want to gamble with my money? No. I mean, I can't help it.
As fast as your eyes, sir. I in a playground near my parents' house. The debt collectors won't be able to find me here.
Well, don't move from there. I have a gift for you. After I said that, I hung up the phone and started making calls to a certain place. Then the debt collectors found Jay. He was taken somewhere in a black car. He would have loved my gift. This whole mess started when my father-in-law passed away. Just one person's absence was enough to change the people in my parents-in-law's family. Or maybe this is what happens no matter who is gone. I'm sure that eventually I will get married and start another family. I will make sure that my next husband does not become a gambler. I will try to make sure that I have a decent mother-in-law